We'd always kind of wrote each other notes on our mirror that we had. And it was like one of these, medicine cabinet mirrors that you can mount and take with you to your next place. And she wrote this note on there that said, "No shame." Check it out.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Sends and Suffers podcast. As always, this is your host, Mario Stanley. Today is a wondrous day because today is the beginning of June. And for those of you who do not know, it is Pride Month. What is Pride Month? Well, it's the sheer time that the LGBTQ plus community gets to be heard. And let's just say, I want to be very clear. It's just not in June that people are gay. This is a lifelong thing. This is who they are, how they identify, and they're beautiful, wonderful people. And I feel that it is only right for me to do this. I am having Alexa, good friend of mine, climber, probably one of the best staples for this community in the DFW area that I believe. She's going to be taking over our podcast for the next little while. Maybe just Pride Month, maybe just a little longer. Yeah, we're going to keep you on your toes. You won't know. But what you are going to do and what you are going to have the opportunity to do is decide whether you are going to grow and learn and listen to other people's unique stories, or are you going to unsubscribe, unfollow, because this is not your jam and you're not willing to grow. Rock climbing, by its sheer nature, is a growth-based sport. We have all the tools we need. If you can spend years working on a boulder or just a session or a season, putting it together, chipping it apart, however you want to describe it, then you have the tools to grow and learn. And why don't we do it at a part of ourselves that is far harder to grow because we don't see it every day? And that's our hearts and that's our minds. And most importantly, connecting our souls with other people. I am so proud to introduce Alexa, and I'm going to let her describe herself and tell you how bad she is, because she is a badass mama jamma. I'm telling you, yes, she is. All right, I'm going to shut up now. I appreciate every one of you. I love you guys dearly, as you know. But please enjoy the new host of Sends and Suffers podcast, Alexa Forster. She's my girl. Holla.
Hi, I'm Alexa Forster. I am a queer trans woman, climber, filmmaker, photographer. I use she, her pronouns. And thank you so much, Mario, for that amazing intro. I am so freaking excited to be able to partner with Mario on the Sends and Suffers podcast to bring y'all this LGBTQ takeover, where I get to talk to all of these other talented climbers and just get to peek into their lives and just kind of pick their brains a little bit. And I guess two key reasons why I am doing the show, because Mario asked me, and at first I was just like, I don't think I'm the right person for this. And he was like, no, you're great at talking with people and having conversations. I said, okay, that I can do. But I just felt like my knowledge level of climbing was so low that I would just embarrass myself and the rest of my community. But one thing I've learned over this last year of getting to record this podcast, that I've just grown so much as a human being and as a climber, and I've learned so much. And I'm just so grateful for this podcast and what it's allowed me to do. So thank you, Mario. And one of the main reasons I do this podcast is to help other queer climbers out there feel less alone and to feel connected to other queer climbers, even if it's through this auditory medium. If they don't have that, in-person community, if they're in a more rural area, then they can connect with other people like them and feel seen and feel heard, because that is so important in today's world. So Thank you, and enjoy this episode.
Check it out.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sends and Suffers podcast. I am here with Alexa. Alexa, I will let you go ahead and introduce yourself to the climbing community, and I guess we'll just kind of get into this of what you and I have cooking. So
Okay.
Who are you, where are you from, and what is your relation to the outdoors?
Cool. So my name is Alexa Forster. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And I've been climbing since actually January 1st, 2019. And finally, after 2 years of climbing in the gym, I was able to make it outside in April of this year, in 2021, to Horseshoe Canyon Ranch.
Oh, nice.
Up in Arkansas. First place to go was just beautiful, and I finally decided to mix my two passions of climbing and photography into one, and took my camera out there and was just able to really just like fall in love with climbing and photography all over again. And I went back exactly a month later in May and figured out how to got an ascender, was able to Jumar a little bit and get some amazing photos from on the wall. So I just love getting to climb outside, and I can't wait for the weather to cool down to go back outside again and really also connect with other people that I meet outside, or just like like, it was funny. I was on the wall on my second trip when I was taking pictures, and I just looked over and this woman was next to me, and I just had the perfect angle. I was like, "Hey, can I take your picture? You look really good right there," basically on the wall.
You're nicer than I would. I wouldn't ask. I would just do it.
I don't know. Consent for like photos to me is very important. I just always feel strange taking a stranger's picture without getting permission. But she was like totally cool, and I just realized I still need her to send her those photos, because afterwards I got her email address, and it said I would send them to her. So I need to do that. This is a good reminder for myself.
Dope. Well, I am excited to talk to you because you and I have been scheming a project for a little while, and I'm very excited to share this with everyone. So, as you guys all know, as you can obviously see, I'm a brother, and I talk to people of color. I talk to majorities, minorities, everyone. But I feel like I can really easily associate, relate, and I love everyone. But I'm super excited to talk about Alexa will be taking over the podcast for the next few months, and she is going to be introducing members of the LGBT plus community, and really kind of just, I'm super excited. It's really going to be like broadening the scope. And those of you who know me personally, intimately, and professionally, you know my platform is your platform. Like, we're out here to kind of make the world a better place, and that's like the plan. And so this idea kind of came from, I wanted to interview, more diverse people within the community. And I'm sure I probably could have done it, but I didn't really think, I don't know. It's one of those things. It's like going to your hometown. And when you go to your hometown, you just like know where the things are. You know where the spots is, you know the vibe, you know the people, and you can just easily like sink into that groove. And I felt that it would be much more authentic, much more original, and honestly, honestly showcasing someone else. I think it was really important. So I'm really excited and happy that you said yes to do this, because I was definitely a little nervous asking you. You're going to be like, nah, this ain't my vibe. But you jumped on board, and I'm super excited to do this. And if you guys haven't had a chance, the episode that went out right before this was a talk with Nikki Smith that I had. And this is kind of the springboard onto, basically, we are not exactly sure how many episodes we're going to go for this, but we're thinking, how many do we have so far?
7 or 8.
7 or 8. So
We're aiming for 7 or 8. I think we have 4, I think, right now
Yeah.
in the can,
Okay.
and I need to finish the rest of them.
Okay, cool. And so we're locking the rest of these things up, and by the time you guys hear this, honestly, this will most likely be locked up and will be set up. And I will not. I'll be sprinkled in here like sprinkles on your favorite donut, or coconut sprinkles on your favorite donut, whatever your favorite donut
Yeah.
is. But I will be back, and I hopefully will not be back until after the new year. And I am super excited to bring my first real series to you guys. And we'll get into that much later. I'll give like a little super secret note of that later. But I do want to just drop a little bit of information on you guys. We have launched the Patreon. So the Patreon is up, it's running. And if you guys are already Sticker Club members, you already have transferred over, you've moved over. If you have not, holla at a brother, because that means I'm slipping. And you all know me, I don't like to slip. I like to stay fresh, straight clean, straight balling. But I can't do that without your help. And for those of you who are not Sticker Club members, please join the Patreon. It's $5 a month. At the $5 level, you get stickers every month, love letters in the mail from me, and then you get access to exclusive content on the Patreon. You'll get access to video recordings of this. You'll get access to a bunch of other stuff. So, and then we will be creating other tiers later. But for those of you, once again, who know me personally, I'm bougie. I'm super bougie. And I'm trying to make this stuff. I mean, I want y'all to feel like you're wearing like that Patagucci when you join the next level. So I don't know what the next level is going to kind of be yet. I have some schemes. I have some ideas. But if you want to know what those ideas are, join the Sticker Club now. Those ideas will be voted on the Patreon. That we will have votes. We'll have polls. I'm going to get ideas from you guys. And then also you'll have access to stuff. Discounts on swags, discount from vendors. I mean, there's all kinds of things that will happen. Your boy's going to take care of you. But I'm going to shut up because this really isn't about me today. When is it ever about me, actually? But today is about a community that I feel is underserved and underrepresented. And represented, is that a thing? Represented?
Underrepresented. I think you did a little too much ED on there.
Yeah. No,
it's okay.
I think it's this haze that we're drinking.
It's the haze, yeah.
It is. It is the IP haze that we're enjoying. Cheers.
Haze, yes, cheers.
Yeah.
It's delicious.
So, I guess what I'd like to start off with is, what was your initial thoughts when I approached you about this idea?
Well, when you first approached me, it was like, I think I'll definitely want to interview for like for my podcast, just like one episode. So I was really psyched for that, just to like come in and do an episode with you, and then just like get back to everything else in the world. And like that was like, I think, was it right before COVID hit that you talked to me about it? I think like doing one episode.
It was right before lockdown.
Yeah, right before lockdown hit.
Yeah. Because I remember seeing
the
your
world
face
went
before
crazy.
then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that happened, and then everything, everyone went into their homes and stayed forever.
Yeah, you're right. Because I hadn't actually launched a podcast yet.
You were just talking to me about it. Like you were talking about it, and I was like, yeah, I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
And then lockdown happened, and stopped climbing for a while, and then came back into the gym, and I was happy to see you back and everyone else back that was working and being able to climb again after some time off. And I think it was so it was like December or November 2020, and you came to the idea like, what would you think about doing a takeover for the LGBTQ community? And I was like, first I was just like super pumped and excited, and I was like, yeah, that sounds really cool. And then I got home and started thinking about it more, and I was just like, but am I the right person? Like, I've only been climbing for like right under 2 years. I'm like, I haven't got to go outside yet at this point. And my, climbing, whatever you want to call it, and I was like super nervous, just feeling kind of like not fully confident in myself to be able to talk to all these other amazing climbers who are doing just like crazy things in the community. But like, when you asked me, I just realized it was going to be an amazing opportunity for myself to talk to other people, other, LGBTQ folks, other queer folks like me in the community about climbing. Because I was introduced into climbing from a friend who's, also queer, and she's the whole reason I got into climbing. So I saw it as a very queer sport and just like open and really easy to get into. And then I started climbing more, and I was like, I would run into, a queer person every now and then, but it was still in the gym, mostly straight, cis folk. So I did, eventually I've made some more friends here at Summit who are in the community, and I love them. And they're actually some of the first people I talked to was like some local friends.
That's awesome.
And yeah, but I just realized like this would be a really great opportunity for me to be able to just get to talk to some other people in the community who are also crazy about climbing like I am, and got really excited and just, made my ultimate wish list of people that I would love to talk to that I've been following. Like on Instagram, I follow a hashtag trans climbers, and there were some people on there that I automatically just like, I knew I wanted to talk to them.
That's awesome.
Just because I had never gotten the opportunity or had a reason to reach out to have a conversation, but this allowed me to do that and to talk to so many other people that I never thought I would actually be able to talk to. And just having this platform has been such an experience, and something that's really, I think, created the opportunity for me to branch out and create just so many awesome relationships that I can't wait for the future to see develop, and being able to eventually hopefully climb with the people I've been talking to.
Yeah, that would be super fun. I hope that comes to pass. I want to hear more about the people that you've interviewed, but I definitely think it's very important that I want to solidify who you are. And I definitely you gave your introduction, and I don't know if this is comfortable for you. If not, then by all means shoot me down. Like this is your show now. So I'm riding, I'm basically riding bitch right now. So
there you go.
But like, would you be okay with talking about like how, God damn, like this is so complicated. And
like what it's like being trans and climbing?
No, I want to do that, but I want to kind of go more like deeper than that. I want to kind of like, I'm just looking at this from like the cis male kind of perspective here. And like, the best way I want to say it is like, I want your Batman origin story. If you're an orphan and your parents got killed by Joker, like I don't want to know that. That's like real fucked up, real dark.
So like my trans origin story is that what
yeah, kind of it. And but if that's okay to ask,
no, that's totally fine, because like it's funny that you say like origin story, because I literally the first other trans woman I met in the gym took me 2 years to meet another trans woman climbing who like actually, came out to me as trans. Took me 2 years in the gym to meet another person like me. And, we clicked like just really fast because we had, so much in common, and we actually had the same, so people in the trans community, side note for everyone else, people in the trans community, if they decide to medically transition, they'll sometimes call their anniversary for when they started hormone replacement therapy like their birthday, basically. Oh. So we had the same birthday for our HRT, like the same day of the same year. It's crazy of how many similarities that we had. And like we also went to the same type of support group. So it was just like we kind of had lots of stuff in common already. And then like the first time we got together outside the gym, just like hang out and like grab dinner together, we swapped we swapped our origin stories. We call them our trans origin stories. Okay. So it's so funny that you said it in a very similar way. But yeah, I guess I can go back.
Is it wrong for me to say when you say trans origin story, I also think of you like, this is so dumb, but I kind of think of you like riding Optimus Prime into the future for justice for everyone. And it's just like, I'm thinking of Transformers. I know this is this cis male thing, but like,
it's like, it's a very like trans is the first part of Transformers. So I could see how that is
I don't know.
associated.
But anyway, but Transformers is badass, and you're a badass. So I guess that's where I'm really like making a correlation. But yeah, I'm gonna shut up. I'm gonna get out of the way here. So yeah, yeah, because I really think it's very important to kind of cement. I think it's very important to kind of cement to the listeners and the viewers like who are you, because they've heard me for 31 until now 30 episodes just go womp 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 womp.
Yeah.
And so it's
totally.
your show
now.
Give
some background about how I became Alexa. And so I guess I want to like start with is like for people who don't know much about trans people. So I, am a trans woman, and I, was assigned male at birth growing up from the doctor. And the way I look at it and see it is that like that was, basically this sex was assigned to me at birth based on my genitals.
Mm-hmm.
And like basically science has now proven that gender is a spectrum. It's no longer just like this black and white thing. There's a huge spectrum of gender, and it doesn't have to be male or female. There's, non-binary folks who, sometimes they identify as like not any gender. Like they don't even identify a little bit as male or female. And sometimes they can identify as more femme and sometimes more male, or sometimes they kind of fall in the middle. But the thing about non-binary is it's so individual to each person who, identifies as non-binary. And like one of the things that I kind of use for like, especially my family, when I came out to them was just like they were having a hard time wrapping their head around it, and they still are. It's been 3 years. But I grew up in East Texas where it's super conservative and super religious.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I like to explain to people is like, trans people have existed for hundreds of years before, like in history, trans people have been there the whole time and just not really ever talked about, especially in Americans' history. We never really acknowledge it. But there's also, I kind of use this explanation of my dad to prove that gender is not just black and white, is that people are born intersex. And intersex people are born with sometimes both sets of genitalia or sometimes partial parts of genitalia. So I use this kind of like, well, if God intended me to be this way, what about someone who was born intersex? Like, that's not a mistake.
Yeah. I mean, theoretically, if God doesn't make mistakes. So.
God doesn't make mistakes. And like there are animals all throughout the animal kingdom who are gender fluid that change their sex or their gender to adapt and be able to like mate. Like I think there's
a frog.
There's a frog. There's like a puffer fish, I think.
Oh, there's a frog. But the frog is from also, I think it's most popularly known from Jurassic Park. Because you remember Jurassic Park #1, the guy was like, yeah, we took this frog and we took it from the DNA. Mm-hmm. And then the guy was like, but certain breeds of frogs can change their sex if the population is low.
Yeah.
And so they were supposed to all have females. There were supposed to be no males at all, dinosaurs.
Yeah.
But because they took this one genetic strand from that frog, they could flip the switch.
Yeah. That's funny. I actually forgot about that.
I'm a movie. Like we can get into movies another time. Yeah.
But no, okay. So I kind of went off on that little tangent about intersex, just to kind of explain to people who don't, who still see gender as this black and white thing. That's a kind of just good introduction into how gender is this social construct. It's because people are, genders were created to help, put people in boxes and be able to sell things to us, essentially. If you think about it and kind of deep down. But I'll kind of like, I'm kind of just jumping all over the place. I apologize.
No.
But like going back to like my kind of, trans origin story or however you want to call it. So yeah, like I said, I was born in like the Dallas area in Plano, and my parents split up when I was in like 5th grade. And then my mom moved us out to East Texas where she grew up. And out there, like I said, it's super conservative, religious area, and anyone who wasn't white and straight were not really accepted, or like just not like a good person to be. Like it was very not a progressive or not a very open-minded space to grow up in. And I was in my youth, in my like high school years, just drawn towards the theater because it was such an open and accepting group of people that I could just easily be around. And I, like growing up, I never really had the definition or knew what being trans was. I knew I was different growing up, but I didn't really have a word for it. And I was basically too afraid to talk about it with my family because no one in my family ever really talked about their emotions growing up. Hint, why my parents ended up getting a divorce. And so I grew up with this upbringing of not really being able to talk about my feelings or what was going on with me. So I just kind of, repressed how I felt because I was ashamed of it based on growing up in East Texas. I had this homophobia basically and transphobia like ingrained in me growing up where I grew up to not really accept who I was. I put on basically a mask. I checked off boxes for my family to make them happy. I thought by making them happy, I would be happy eventually. If I went to school, if I went to college, got a degree, I got a girlfriend, that like everything would just, I got a job, like things would just line up and I would actually be happy eventually. But I was fortunate to have a family that was able to support me in school and pay for my college and let me actually major in like theater basically. And then I eventually transferred to film production. But yeah, it was so weird that they were so supportive and like what I wanted to do passion wise. I just didn't feel like I had ever the ability because I still wasn't really sure of what being trans was because growing up I had like secretly like dressed up like in my cousin's clothes a few times and like every time that I did that it just felt really good. I got really happy and just felt like this sense of euphoria for being able to kind of present as a woman, like when I was like 8 or 9 or something. But I did that in total secrecy because I was so ashamed of it based on like what I'd seen in the media and how trans people were depicted in the media. If you look back at any like trans character in a film, they were always like the villain or the bad guy or like a joke, basically. True. Like the Ace Ventura film, the main villain ended up being trans at the very end, and it just this really awful joke shit. Wherever Jim Carrey, kisses Sean Young, I think's her name. Yeah, kisses her character, and then once like they find out that she's trans, like he goes and like has all his fake vomiting scene, basically.
I totally forgot about that.
Yeah. There's all these things just peppered in to a past media that no one really realizes that's there, that is like basically shaping how we see and react to trans people, making them seem like this complete outcast, like this complete just like just
this
like
is the
not
movie,
real.
The Mask.
Yeah, no, that was Ace Ventura.
Ace Ventura. Oh, Ace Ventura. So it's funny. You kind of hit on a little bit of a trigger word with me, not in a negative standpoint, but like, and I would like to back up, and then I want you to continue.
For sure.
So I have been doing this thing recently, and which by random chance, if the person who made this product, if you're listening to this podcast, I'm still waiting on those good goods, but I recently ordered some luchador masks. And if you're familiar with what a luchador mask is, it's a Mexican wrestling mask. So think of Nacho Libre, things like that. And I really love this idea. And so this is kind of a thought experiment. You talked about wearing a mask in front of everybody in East Texas and everything like that. At what point did you have a conversation with that mask? And at what point did you have a conversation with that mask where you could talk to the mass as you are now and talk to the mass? And at what point was the mask taken off?
Okay.
And what was done with it? Was it burned? Was it gotten rid of? Is it still on a shelf somewhere?
Yeah, no, that's okay. So I wasn't really sure how far you want me to go back. So I started really early, basically, just to
no.
give a backstory. I can
yeah.
definitely jump forward a little bit. Sorry.
Yeah, no. I don't want you. I want you to go at your own time.
Yeah.
It's just interesting to me because, like, in my own self journey right now, I am realizing that, like, I personally wear masks through, like,
we all do.
Yeah, we all do. But, like, I wear the mask that I coach with the kids, and I wear the mask that this and this. But I've realized basically these things that we do, we inadvertently sometimes wear them when we don't expect. And I think it's very important to have conversations with these things because they are a part of our identity structure.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, there's like, so like maybe mask isn't always the best word.
No, I think it's the perfect word.
It's a good word for it, but for sometimes, like, I think another word for it, for you're saying, like, you wear a mask with, your kids when you're coaching, like, in my opinion, that's like not so much the mask as it is a different part of you. Like, that's a different part of Mario. That's not the same Mario. That's like, when you're out chilling with your friends.
Yeah, no,
it's a different part of you, basically. So, like, for me, I felt like I didn't really fit in with other, like, boys growing up, basically. I just didn't really ever feel a like connection or bond or like camaraderie with other boys growing up.
Boys are dumb.
So yeah, no.
Let's just be honest. Boys are stupid.
So I just like always felt like I had to like do what they were doing to like fit in, essentially. I had two brothers, basically. I'm a middle child. So I always felt like I was like imitating what they were doing or what other guys were doing, basically, to try to like fit in, basically, because I didn't feel like I fit in ever. And then, flash forward through college, I, people in college, tend to drink and have fun and, get drunk.
Yep.
I don't think I necessarily like drank more than other kids in college, but I definitely drank a lot to the point where I would like, black out a lot of times and not really remember, what happened the night before. And so I feel like because I didn't know how to process my feelings or my emotions for the longest time, I would use alcohol or I would use pot or something to just like help me numb the side of myself that I just did not want to acknowledge.
Yeah.
Basically, up until I was 28, basically. And I was in a nearly 7-year relationship with my partner at the time. And I was that year basically was 2017, I believe. Yeah, it was 2017. And I had a surgery that year. I had a cyst right above my butt, and they had to remove that. And I was out of work for like a month and a half recovering just upstairs in my apartment, basically by myself most of the day while my partner was at work. And I just had so much time to sit there and look at myself. And I suffered a lot of depression post-surgery. And I was looking at, at this wound, and I also was looking at myself in the mirror a lot more and just getting so uncomfortable with who I saw. And
why?
I think because I had so much time to myself for the first time, because I had always been go, keeping myself busy with work, keeping myself busy with having, friends and everything else. It allowed me to like avoid this part of myself for so long. But whenever I was recovering, I couldn't run from it anymore.
That's fair. I mean,
and so I was forced to like look at myself and actually start to think about it and try to begin to like process what was going on. And what I finally figured out after doing a little research is I was having gender dysphoria, basically.
Oh.
And I didn't know what that was before then until I was actually able to like do research, because like up until this point, I had, I'd heard and seen transgender people, but never really associated that with who I was, because growing up, I thought that I had this very, very shameful fetish is what I thought I had. I thought I was attracted to these people, I thought I was attracted to trans people. I thought I had this weird fetish that I was so ashamed about and didn't tell anyone about ever. And so,
wow, it's amazing how trauma can like really.
Yeah,
it's amazing how trauma can really just like open world up, whether it's emotional, physical, or whatever. But it like, I mean, it opens a can of worms.
Yeah, and so basically, less than a year before I had that surgery, I went and had drinks with this trans woman that I met on Craigslist, essentially, and I just wanted to actually go have a drink with the trans person because I was so curious and, thought I was attracted to this person. And at the moment I got there and I was able to start talking with her, like, it just kind of clicked to my head that I was like, oh shit, like, she's me. And like, I am her, basically. After just sitting and talking with her for like less than a minute, I had this realization, and this was a year before my surgery, and like that happened, and I got so afraid and ashamed of what was going on in that realization that I just started to like block it out again. Like I figured it out, like I realized who I was in that moment, and then I was just like, no, I can't even begin to try to like.
So you put the mask back on.
I put the mask. Yeah, the mask started to come up for a second, and I was able to actually kind of peer at who I was. And then after I realized, like, oh, I can't do this. Like, I'm in a relationship right now. I have, a girlfriend, and I have, my family that's not ever going to approve of this.
That makes sense.
So I was so concerned with looking good to my family and to my partner that I could not even consider the idea of like thinking that I was trans. And so I went back and just suppressed it more. And then, my surgery came up and I was, by myself a lot after surgery. And then that's whenever the gender dysphoria started to come back, when I had just myself to just be with. And I started doing more research based on, that kind of, event that I talked about with, meeting the other trans women and realizing that was, who I was, and able to kind of like see and like figure out what gender dysphoria was, because I had never heard the term until I started doing research about, what a trans person deals with and who they are, on the inside, and like how they get to be where they're at, and like learning about transition and everything. Because I had no idea, because there's no education about it. There's nothing out there.
Not even now?
I mean, now there's a little bit, but most cis people don't know much about trans folks unless they know a trans person who educates them.
Yeah, I mean, selfishly saying, that's what I'm asking right now.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know jack shit.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, it's a serious issue in today's world, because there's not enough education about it. Where there's just no education, so it's basically left up to like people in the trans community to educate cis people. And here's the thing: if you meet a trans person and you're cis and you don't know anything about it, don't automatically expect that the trans person is going to take the time to educate you, because it takes a lot of mental energy to do so. So I knew coming into this conversation that I would be doing that. So like, you're fine. Don't worry. Don't sweat it. You're totally good.
I'm happy you acknowledge that, because the same thing is with, this whole thing with like, what's it called? It's escaping my mind right now. Critical race theory.
Oh yeah.
It's the whole thing with black people talking about Black Lives Matter and all this other stuff. And it's like, people are just like, oh, I don't get it. I'm like, hi, and I'm not going to lie. I'm a little bit more kind-hearted than some people that I know. And I'll be like, I'll have a 5-minute conversation as long as you're buying drinks, and
yeah, compensate me for my time just a little bit at least.
Yeah.
Because like, this is taxing.
Yeah, no, it is. It's emotionally draining. It's like, and I think I'm really happy that I am happy but burdeningly sad to know that is the commonality between us in this thing, where it's like, yeah, okay, I'll explain this to you, but like, and I don't know if you ever deal with this, but like, I'm like, yeah, I'll explain this to you, but like, be honest with you, I know you're not going to give a fuck anyway. So like, I know you're asking. I know you're asking, and I'm just hoping something I say sticks in the back of your brain. And I don't expect you to change your vote. I don't expect you to change your mind. I just hope you're not a dick at one point in time. But and it's like this real bittersweet thing that, like I said, like
Yeah.
I'm happy that that's it, but it's also kind of bittersweet that it's like, God
Yeah.
damn, like.
There's actually something when you said that, it's interesting that you said that because, jumping forward a little bit, because I was almost to that point where I was taking off the mask that you wanted to hear about.
Mm-hmm.
But
I want to hear. Go.
I'll get to this point. There was a connection to what you just said about race and trans people having a similarity there. It's because being a minority, essentially. But so like I said, I was like, figuring out who I was by doing research about trans, but what being trans was online, and figuring out what gender dysphoria was, and then kind of figuring that out myself, and then taking that was like basically June of 2017, and it took me like 4 months to kind of like figure it out more and begin to like think about it. And then my partner at the time, she was going out of town to go on a girls' trip to see one of her friends from college, essentially, that moved up to like Ohio or something, and they were all going up there. So I had the weekend to myself for the first time in like forever to be alone. And I decided I was going to use that time to, present as a woman for like the first time in public, because I had never done that before. I'd always like done it in private and done it in secrecy, and I wanted to be able to see what that felt like for me. And so I basically ordered all of this stuff online, and it just ended up being, I ordered like this dress. I decided that I wanted to like get dressed up and go dancing for the first time, like presenting as a woman. And so in Dallas, there's what we call the Gayborhood, where they have all these different bars and S4
Cedar Springs,
down in Cedar Springs. So there's this club called S4 that I went to a couple times in college with some
I love that
gay
place.
friends when I was still in theater, basically. And I just remember going there and having like the best time. And I was just like, I'm going to go here, basically. And just like by myself, I was just like, I'm going to do it. So I ordered like a dress and some shoes, stuff online. It all came in. The dress was like this huge glitter bomb that was just like shedding glitter everywhere. So I had to like end up like going to Ross or something to go buy a dress. And I remember like, still presenting male at that point and looking and just being so terrified to just walk into the women's section and looking at dresses and like just sweating bullets the whole time, just because I thought people were staring at me or something. Like it's just like it's all mental, but like I just was so scared. And then just getting in the line for the dressing room to like try it on to see if it fit before I bought it. And then I went to like Payless afterwards. Rest in peace, Payless, for all the other women with big feet. You know what I mean? And then got some shoes there, and went to Target, got some makeup, and I used that Friday night to just kind of practice doing my makeup. Luckily, I did theater growing up, so I had already kind of foot up on some other trans women on actually how to apply makeup. So I was kind of like already blessed there before, and was able to apply face a lot better than I would have been if I hadn't had some makeup experience, and kind of just practice doing that, and figuring out what I wanted to make my makeup look like the night after, or and Saturday. And then spent the next whole like early evening the next day getting ready, basically. And then I took a shower, shaved, basically, and started getting ready and putting my makeup on, and I just like looked in the mirror and I just like saw myself for the first time, and I just was smiling. Like just this euphoria took over for the first time, and I don't like ever, essentially, that I had never been able to look at myself and be happy. And like before that, like I had never understood like people who love to take selfies. Like I thought it was the most like just annoying, and just like I thought it was the most self-centered thing in the world, people taking selfies. And I just didn't get it because I never enjoyed taking a picture of myself. Like I, got into filmmaking and to photography, and I would always stay behind the camera.
Okay. That makes sense.
I saw myself for that first time, and I took like over 100 selfies in front of the mirror that night because I was so fucking happy for like the first time and had this euphoria that I had never felt before. And it just like
that was the moment, like, so the mask was lifted, basically. That was the moment, basically. And as I was like driving down to S4, basically, I was like constantly looking in the mirror and just like completely surprised by like who I saw, and just baffled, really, and just so happy and excited for what I had just discovered about myself. And yeah, I got down to the S4 by myself, and I ran into this other group of trans women, and like they took me underneath their wing, essentially, and just let me hang out and dance with them the whole night, and had one of the best nights that I have ever had, like, in my life, essentially. And then my partner came back into town, and I came out to her as trans, like, the next day, basically, and she didn't take it as well as I would like her to take it, basically. She was very confused, and was like, she was like, thinking that I was lying to her the whole time of the relationship. She thought I had known this about myself and had just chosen not to tell her, but really I didn't understand or like actually fully know.
Yeah, I mean, that's a hard thing.
The perspective of it and what it was.
It's a hard thing because like people, I think most people, I don't want to say most people. I think there's a large percent of the population that believes the world happens to them.
Yes.
And the world, instead, in reality, the world is just spinning.
The world is just spinning, yes.
The world's spinning. It's not happening to you. It's happening around you. But however, the only way that you know how to process it is that this is happening to you.
Yes. It's all about perspective.
Yes.
Basically.
Yeah.
And for her, that's how it happened for her. So I don't want to take that away from her.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Absolutely.
that's how she interpreted it. And I don't want to take that away from her. But, so yeah, I came out to her, and afterwards, this giant weight just lifted, and I felt like, because we've been in a relationship for almost 7 years and we're living together, and I know she wanted commitment, but there was like, I was so terrified of like committing to somebody at that point. And like, I think being able to share that part of myself for the first time, because I just discovered it, like opened up this whole level of trust and like figuring out who I was and be able to start to figure out how to love myself, because I'd never been able to do that. So I was just so happy. And then that was the beginning of November. And then the end of December comes around, and my grandfather passed away. And he was like basically a second father to my brothers and I after our parents' divorce and everything. And then, went for the funeral. Went there for Christmas because he passed away Christmas Eve. So it was like super rough holiday where I was thinking about coming out to my family then. And then I was like, nope, can't do it. And then came back after Christmas to get close to the funeral, where my partner at the time, she couldn't get off work, so she stayed there. I went for the funeral, came back, and she had taken her clothes and our dog and, cleared her personal items out. And I had to wait for her to get back home to like let her have the breakup conversation with me. So that was right before the end of the year, basically a couple days.
Yeah.
And it was a really dark time for me, basically, to have my grandfather pass, and then my partner of like 7 years tell me that, she couldn't go through this with me, basically. She was surprisingly still supportive, but unable to be there for me through the transition, is what she told me.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, love is love.
The sweetest thing for me, that was like, we'd always kind of wrote each other notes on our mirror that we had. And it was like one of these, like, medicine cabinet mirrors that you can mount and take with you to your next place. And she wrote this note on there that said, "No shame."
That's beautiful.
So that, I left it there for like months, basically. And I just saw it every day after that. And it was such an important message that she left for me, because she was so concerned about my like well-being, that like nervous that I would do something stupid after she left. Like, she called my friends and told them that, we'd broken up and that I needed people to be there with me to support me. Like, she didn't out me to them. She just said that I needed support.
Do you guys still talk?
So let me get to that.
It doesn't have to be a long thing. It can be a simple yes or no.
So we don't talk anymore right now.
Okay.
But yeah, so basically that was the beginning of my 2018 after like having that happen. And then I was thinking about, coming out to my family. And then, I went home beginning of February for my little brother's birthday, and was thinking about coming out to them then. And I got there and my mom was talking about my brother and really worried about him because he'd been sleeping all day and like staying out all night and was concerned for his health because in the past he had smoked pot and up until that point in my past relationship I was, smoking pretty regularly and as I got out of the relationship I, told myself I needed to take a break because I was using this to numb myself and that wasn't healthy. And so I had not had any issues with him smoking, basically, because I thought he was handling it okay, but I didn't realize he was also using it to numb himself from his childhood traumas that he had. And then that weekend we were there, we discovered syringes in his bathroom.
Oh.
So basically we all sat him down after his birthday dinner where he was just completely fucked up.
And had an intervention.
And had a little mini intervention with him. And my aunt helped us find a rehab facility outside of Dallas, and I was on my way home to Dallas, so I drove him to rehab, and that was probably one of the hardest things I ever had to do was driving my little brother and dropping him off at rehab facility was just one of the most difficult things I ever had to do.
I mean, that's definitely fucked on another level.
Yeah, so going from Christmas where I think I was coming out to my family to like February, my little brother having that incident. Like, I was terrified of going back home again to come out to my family, just afraid of some other, like, awful thing happening. So I started seeing a therapist in the beginning of February of 2018 because to actually start medically transitioning, some doctors require you to have a letter from a therapist stating that, you are in the right state of mind to begin medically transitioning. And this is actually something that no other community of people have to go through. No one has to go and see a doctor or a therapist to say that, oh yeah, you're trans. You can now begin taking hormones. So it's seen as like, some people in the community see it as like gatekeeping essentially. To be able to like start transitioning, you have to like be able to afford to go see a therapist for a certain amount of time. That will write you a letter to go see a doctor that you can then start.
So it's a barrier to entry.
Yeah, it's a huge barrier basically. For a lot of people, it's seen as a barrier. For me, I know I needed someone to talk to about my feelings because I had never done that before. So for me, I was okay with it. But for a lot of people in the trans community, it's a huge barrier. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Can I play devil's advocate to this real quick? So 2 questions. Can you give an example that a cis person might have a barrier like that at all, or just does not exist?
I can't really think of anything like a cis person would want. Like, cis people can go and like electively get surgery, but for a trans person to have
a cis person can go get breasts if they want to.
Can go get a breast implant. Like, implants, no problem. I mean, actually, good question. Like, most women would be able to go and get breast augmentation.
Okay. Yes.
So, but if you're a trans woman, to like have a breast augmentation, some surgeons, not all, but most surgeons will require a letter from your therapist saying that you are, lived as a woman for a certain amount of time before they will do that. And it's the same way for gender confirmation surgery. It takes a therapist letter. It'll take a doctor's letter sometimes for the surgeon to actually perform the surgery for you.
Okay, so then last part of devil's advocate here is, I guess, and like, this is my ignorance speaking out, but like, how many people, quote unquote, well, not quote unquote, but like, how many people back out of this, or how many people go back and forth? Because I think the news sensationalizes the stories of people who have gone like, become a man, become a woman, gone back and forth, confused or whatever. And so like, I don't think you should have a barrier of entry.
Yeah.
But I also don't understand this enough to know that like, I mean, and let's be honest, if you're paying for it, you're paying for it. You can do whatever you goddamn well please.
Exactly.
But I also understand that, like, I don't know. I guess this is why I'm so confused on this. And it's like, a doctor has ability, they take an oath to like do no harm and take care of people. But at the same time, like, I guess there's just not, going back to the earlier statement, I'm kind of answering my own question here, I guess. But like, there's just not enough information about the community as a whole to really to really warrant,
Yeah.
to really warrant, I guess, the validity of that, because I see it as like, I don't think you should have a barrier to entry,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm also vehemently concerned. Like, I guess in Canada recently, they had talked about like people can go through reassignment much younger before under the age of 18. Or was that?
I don't think so. I don't think
Was that not a
that's-
thing?
I don't think it's under 18. I think most places are 18 years old before you can actually start to take any for any surgeries or for any hormone replacement therapy.
I'll have to double
Basically,
check on this.
For
But
for anyone who's young, under 18, at least in the U.S., and I'm pretty sure in Canada as well, and in the U.K., I believe, that the doctors can prescribe trans youth puberty blockers, and all that does is delay puberty from happening. So if they were to change their mind, a year after taking puberty blockers, they could stop taking them, and their puberty would start.
okay, I
would be
guess
fine.
that's what I was thinking
That's
of.
all there is. It's puberty blockers, and that does nothing. That does not do anything invasive to the kids' like development or anything. Like all it does is delay puberty, and then when they're 18, they can basically start taking hormone replacement therapy, so they have the right hormones in their body, so they can go through that puberty. See, for me, I started taking HRT May 2018, so I have gone through and still going through a second puberty essentially.
Oh wow.
So yeah, it's one of the things, especially in the government, that they use as a weapon against the trans community. Is like recently there's multiple states in the U.S. right now that are trying to pass states from allowing their doctors to give healthcare to trans youth,
Okay.
because they're saying that we're preventing them from having surgeries and mutilating these children. Like they use those words just like that are very similar, basically.
Yeah. No, I mean,
Whenever like there's no
rhetoric
doctors that are allowed to even do that, they're using the scare tactic basically. But all they're basically trying to take away puberty blockers from trans youth, and by that happening, they're gonna go through a puberty that they don't need to go through, because it's gonna make it that much harder for them once they want to start transitioning. Because for a trans woman, testosterone does a lot of evil things to their body, basically, that they don't want, like hair loss, and it deepens the voice, and it does a lot of other things that just make it really like that estrogen won't, basically take away. So that's just one thing right now that's happening, and it's weaponizing, basically. It's basically trying to, kind of weaponize what, trans youth are accessing whenever, like, their Republicans are just presenting something completely false.
Okay.
But kind of like, I'll get back and finish the whole progression, because I was almost done, basically.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I started seeing a therapist, and then after 3 months, he wrote me a letter. I started taking hormone replacement therapy in May 2018, and then I started I started socially transitioning. Before that, in March, came out to my family. They were just completely shocked and surprised. So that was just like this like very slow process, basically, of my family starting to come around. But luckily, I actually had some really great family members, like from the beginning, who were just like super supportive, like my cousin and like my aunt. Without them, like actually there, like talking to my other family members, explaining, like, this is what she wants to do. Like, this makes her happy. This is who she is. You got to like let her be her.
Yeah.
And not project the idea of who you thought she was and be forced into that narrative. Because so many parents, when they have kids, they have this idea in mind of who they're going to be as they grow up, and they have this image of what they want their child to be, and don't let them actually be themselves.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
So that's a whole nother part of it. But like you were saying, I started socially transitioning in March, which means I just started, presenting as a woman, essentially. And prior to like my face now, I had like this giant beard, basically, with this really dark hair that I was able to have laser hair removal treatment to like reduce my facial hair, and that helped a lot in terms of like feeling dysphoria for myself. Like that was a
okay.
major sense of gender dysphoria. Like after I would shave, I would still just look at my face and it would just be complete shadow on my lower half of my face, essentially. So just having that was, after 2 years of treatment, just like, it's not completely gone, but like it's 95% better, essentially.
That's awesome.
And then, so I started transitioning. I started going to support groups that actually made me feel less alone and less like a freak, essentially.
Where can one find information about support groups?
Yeah. So most larger cities have some type of LGBTQ support center.
Okay.
Like here in Dallas, there's the Resource Center. And I had a friend invite me to this trans support group that was for 18 and up youth, anyone from 18 up, basically.
Yeah.
And I started going there and just automatically met all these other people that were trans and like me, and it just made me feel less alone and more connected to these other people that I had never, met before. And it just really gave me a sense of belonging and learning how to actually accept myself. Therapy, I was practicing that, being able to actually interface and talk with other people definitely helped me go through that. And then, I just started medically transitioning with HRT. And then, definitely had some small hiccups from, things at work. Don't really need to go into that. It's not a big deal.
Yeah. No.
I worked at a photography rental house, and now after COVID last year, now I'm working as an independent contractor for film production and like photo production, and it's a lot of fun. I enjoy what I do for work. It's nice to work for myself. But like one of the things you asked me earlier, if I still talk to my ex. Last December, she passed away from a very advanced form of melanoma, essentially.
Oh shit.
And we had basically only been texting before that.
Wow.
And never really gotten to talk. So that was really, and it was like, a couple weeks before we broke up too. So it was just super rough timing for that to happen. And then like my brother the next night after that basically telling me that I couldn't come to his house for Christmas, essentially, when all my other family members were invited.
Wow, I'm sorry.
So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now, and I'll kind of just like wrap the bow there on like kind of history and origin story there.
Well, thank
Sorry
you for
that took so long.
No. I mean, it's life is not simple. Life is complex. And I say this to the kids all the time. The simplest things are always the hardest thing to unpack. The simpler it is, the more complicated it is to unpack. And that's just a fact of life. And I want to switch gears here and kind of talk about, I really kind of want to stick this to 3 different things. I'd like to know what kind of gave you solace or comfort in talking to the few people that you have talked to about for the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
What are you most excited about or hope forward to happen or come out of it or anything like that? And then, is there anybody else you want to interview? Because hopefully they're listening to this.
Yeah.
And I can holla.
Yeah.
Holla at my girl.
Uh-huh. So what gave me like solace and like peace of mind?
Yeah. Like what was like, wow, like why in this whole exploration of interviewing the adventurous outdoor community that you've had an opportunity to do?
So I think what gave me like peace of mind was just starting off kind of easy with some friends here in Dallas, my friends Jordan and Spencer, just sitting down and having the first conversation with them, and getting to talk with people I was already familiar with really like helped me realize that I could actually do this. Like this was something that I could do, and that I was actually really going to enjoy it. Like I felt so alive and just like connected after the first conversation I had.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just so pumped to begin to actually do that with like strangers, essentially.
Yeah.
The people I had just, reached out to. So yeah, that definitely kind of gave me the boost that I needed. and reached out to other people that I would, wanted to talk to. And like the next guest after that I had was Samuel Crosley. He's a, gay man who is a filmmaker and photographer and focuses on rock climbing. And it's just like this kind of like person I've really looked up to ever since Free Solo. He was one of the filmmakers on Free Solo.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so like as soon as that movie came out, I went and saw it in IMAX with a friend who was my climbing partner at the time. Shout out to Anna. And yeah, after seeing that film, I was just like couldn't wait to climb outside. And as a filmmaker, I just always look at the credits and I see the names of the people and I go through each one of them and I'm just like, oh, I wonder who this person is. And I got to Samuel Crosley's name and I was just like, got to his Instagram. I was like, oh my goodness, he's queer and he's into filmmaking photography and he's into rock climbing. Like, this is so cool.
That's
so I was
awesome.
just like following him immediately. And so like he was one of the people I had on my list originally from the beginning for the podcast. I was like wanting to talk to him. And he was like the second person that I talked to for some reason. I just like went straight into it and I got really nervous because like I had been looking up to him for a couple of years now and just like following him on Instagram and
That's
just seeing what
awesome.
he was doing. So I was kind of nervous going into that one, but halfway through he just made me feel like so at ease and just relaxed and just easy to talk to. But yeah, but I guess like the person that the next person that like the big name for the person I would love to talk to next is definitely Alex Johnson. And I've actually already reached out to her and she said she would totally be down, but she's got a really busy schedule.
Yeah, I mean,
so
she's living that pro-life
been
commerce
able
schedule.
to nail down a time to talk with her yet, but I need to get back to that and reach back out to her. So that's definitely going to happen soon, and I can't wait. That'll be so great to have I can't knock on wood. These chairs are wood. That she is able to like scheduling to work it out and everything. So
Okay.
that's who I'm looking forward to the most to talk to next.
Okay, so we've got.
But like I've talked to other people who aren't professional climbers or aren't other photographer filmmakers, and just getting to talk to your everyday climbers essentially has been some of the most humbling and rewarding conversations as well. It's just a different it's a different person, it's a different story, it's a different vibe, and like those people are just as amazing and just as fun to talk to.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right. I wish I would have wrote my questions down, but I lost track of them.
I always like just have it notes on my computer when I was
Yeah,
thinking,
no.
basically.
Okay, so we've talked about excitement. I remember the last one. I remember it. What are you hoping to give, or what do you want people to receive from you from all of this?
I guess that's like kind of two parts, I guess.
It is kind of parts. I would say not focus on the give, but receive. Because receive is more important than the give. Because I think just hearing your story, we know what you're trying to give, but like, what do you want people to receive from this? I don't know. Maybe that's the same question. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But I guess what I want people to get out of it, like, I want other, queer people, trans people, however you identify, I want other people in the community to be able to hear these episodes from other climbers and to like feel a little bit less alone in their community. Because I've talked to other, this other trans climber like me, and she refuses to go into a gym.
Yeah.
I am very
I've heard that
blessed
before.
in of all places, Dallas, Texas, to like have a super progressive and supportive gym that I can go into and not feel like unsafe.
Yeah.
It's very affirming. It's a very good experience for me here. So I want to be able to help people in the community feel a little bit safer in the climbing community.
Okay.
And I know it's all relative. It's all based on where you're at, your location. It's all based on that. But I want people to see the wider scope that things are getting better. Like, they haven't been great in the past, but they are getting better. So I'm pushing for that growth and that empowerment for the community to feel like this is their space as well.
Okay.
And then like the other side of that coin would be I want the other people who aren't in the community to be able to learn something and like hear other voices outside of the people that they normally see in the gym or that they normally hang out with, and to be able to appreciate, and be able to understand a little bit like what it feels like for another person that's not like them,
Yeah.
to climb or to go to a gym, and the nerves that they may have doing that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, we can get into this like entering spaces that you perceive or you have not felt welcome before. It's kind of a wild thing.
Yeah, it's definitely crazy. And like the other thing I totally forgot I was going to say earlier was about, how you said it was similar how, people to, being a person of color, to being trans. Like basically when I first came out, I had a friend and, we grabbed lunch and I was coming out to him basically. And he was like, well, welcome. He goes, welcome to the club. And I was like, what do you mean the club? He goes, to being a minority.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. I mean, you join a very exclusive club in America.
Yeah.
I mean, 70% of the majority is the majority. You know who you are.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that was like one of the things also like my therapist told me going into therapy was just like, you're going to lose like your male privilege. It's going to be gone. Like you're giving that up essentially. And I said, okay,
yeah,
I understand that.
Did you really understand that at the moment?
In the moment, I don't think I fully understood the ramifications. And I've gone through the points of not being fully listened to at times. And I've been to the points that I felt unsafe and uncomfortable around cis men. I've had those experiences now, and it's terrifying.
Yeah.
So
I can only imagine.
You don't get it until you're actually in it, basically.
Oh yeah.
And so it took living the experiences to actually get it.
100%.
Yeah. And I could go on about those, but that's not what we're here for.
No. So last question. If you wanted to give a shout out, I mean, we already said hi, Alex. Hey, girl. But is there anyone else on your bucket list that you would, if they just happen to come across, hopefully someone's listening to this that knows someone that knows someone that knows someone that knows someone. And is there anyone else on your bucket list that you would like to chat with?
Off the top of my head right now, I can't think of anybody else, but I'm sure I'm probably missing somebody.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, you're about to take over the episode, so you can throw it out there at any point in time.
Exactly. But I'm just really grateful that you came to me for this, because I just feel so lucky to be able to have these conversations with all of the amazing people that I've got to talk to already, and that I look forward to talking to. So,
well, I want to thank you for your time, and I want to thank you for your story, because I feel, and hopefully the listeners of this podcast feel, that we might not understand the topic much better, but we understand the humanity around it. And I think that's the key. I mean, that's really the key to anything, like understanding the humanity, understanding the person, understanding them, their soul, because, this podcast, and it is definitely already changed by now. You guys have probably already read it. The description of this podcast has changed. It was originally supposed to be Type 2 fun, Sends and Suffers, all the adventures. But as any great project and as anything that you do put your passion into, it breeds a life of its own.
It grows. And
it does what it wants, and you're just along for the ride. And Sends and Suffers podcast mission is to talk to the adventurous souls that tongue-tied, IPA. Sends and Suffers mission is to talk to the adventurous souls that live within this adventurous community. And I want to understand, and the community wants to understand, the sending and the suffering that you have gone through that brought you to this microphone today. Because that's valuable. And I think that's relatable, because, we all have epics. We all have adventures. We all have these things that are like, dude, this trip was just like next level, blah, 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 blah. But I'll never forget one of the most impactful statements I ever heard. Not a story, a statement I ever heard was, a guy had said, you have no idea how many shifts I had to trade just to get to go on this climbing trip. And to me, that was like, excuse me? It was just so powerful to me. Like,
Mhm.
I'm like, you have no idea how many shifts I had to trade in order to get to go on this climbing trip. And it meant that much to you. And I was thinking, I was thinking about just canceling and just not going, but now I feel, I feel
Mhm.
bad. And
Yeah.
I think the point I'm trying to get across is you don't know someone until you have the chance to sit down and talk with them. And I have had the privilege of knowing you in passing for quite a while, and we've grown a friendship within the last, I would say, year to 2 years.
Mhm.
And I don't want to take lightly you opening your heart, your mind, and your gut to me and the community that's listening to this right now. I think it's very important that we give reverence to that. And I am immensely excited for the guests, the thoughts, the opinions, the spirits, and the feelings that you're going to evoke taking over this show. I think it's extremely important. I think it needs to happen. And I don't think I have anything else to say about that. But go on with your bad self, girl. It's your show now.
Thank you.
All right. Before we jump off, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to? Well, the two questions I always like to ask is, and I'm getting better at asking these questions, but like the two questions I like to ask, is there any kind of literature or anything out there that you think would be beneficial for someone to read? Or is there a book that you have gifted someone? And I want to be clear, it doesn't actually have to do with this topic. It's just something that's
Yeah.
meaningful to you. But is there anything that you've given? And then is there anyone you want to give a shout out to? Last two things.
Like anything about like trans educational material, or just like anything in general that I've given people.
I always like to ask, what book have you gifted most? But if you want to list a book that's about trans, and you want to list what book you've gifted most, like whatever, this is your moment.
I guess like what book I recommend. Such a bad friend, I haven't even gifted the book yet, but this is gonna come way out of left field. There is a book, and it's called The Ethical Slut, and the name is a lot more different than what it actually. So basically, the book's about. It's called The Ethical Slut. I think it's the guide to ethical non-monogamy, because a lot of people in the queer and trans community are non-monogamous. So that means that they can be in, there's multiple ways that someone could be non-monogamous. Basically, there's not just one way to do it. But basically that, marriage was created by our society to
Procreate.
essentially procreate and to calm us down, to keep us level, and to keep us grounded. And that humans are not initially made to be monogamous. Like, look at where the divorce rate is. But like that aside, the book's about, non-monogamy. But in my opinion, this book is one of the best books for relationships, even if it's monogamous, in my opinion.
Okay.
I think that it has so many great tools for helping people learn how to communicate better in a relationship, whether that's an intimate relationship, whether that's a friendly relationship, whether that's one with your family. I've learned so many great tools for communication and dealing with jealousy in a relationship. Like, it's not only people, and monogamous people get jealous too. So it helps you deal with like all these different, points in a relationship. Like, yeah, there's stuff in there about non-monogamy, but like you don't have to like really take that stuff. If it's not for you, it's not for you. But there's so many great aspects of that book, in my opinion, that go into actually communication for a relationship and how to, communicate better overall in a relationship. I don't know. It's just one of the things that I've recommended most to people in like the last year. And that's, like I said, it's way out of left field, but yeah, that's like one thing.
No, I'm into it. And then shout outs.
So really, I guess I would shout out to all of my, pretty much, I don't like names. I could sit here and name people all day, but like anyone who's essentially been there for me in the last 3 years in my transition has helped me get to where I'm at today.
Yeah.
Because without the friends and like my chosen family that I have, like I wouldn't be who I am today. And it's like the people that love and care for me who have been able to help me get past those roadblocks. So there's so many people, but if you've known me and you've, talked with me and like we've hung out and like, you've listened to me cry and talk about something essentially, like I want to say I love you and thank you so much for being in my life.
All right. Well, thank you for allowing me to enter your life, and thank you for sharing your origin story with me and the creator community that's listening to this. And I am excited for you to take over, and I believe most of our guests are excited. And if you're not excited, you can unsubscribe. Bye.
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, definitely not. But yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be back in a couple months. Toodaloo.
And that wraps it up for today's episode. Thank you so much again for listening. And I hope you enjoyed or maybe took something away from today's conversation that I got to have with Mario, that I got to open up a little bit about my life and my history. And if you're trying to stay up to date, make sure to go like, follow, subscribe on all of the social media platforms to make sure you're getting all of that Sins and Suffers content that Mario is so graciously sending your way. And I look forward to hosting the next few episodes for this special LGBTQ takeover episodes of Sins and Suffers.
How do you feel about it?
That felt a lot better. Do you want me to do it again?
I mean, it's up to you.
I'll do it one more time. But I felt a lot better, like I wasn't as stumbly between everything.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you can, cut out a little dead space if I did have it in between the kind of segues or whatever. Okay. And that does it for today's episode. Thank you so much again for tuning in and listening. I really enjoyed getting to have this conversation with Mario today and getting to share a little bit about myself, my history. I hope you learned something or found it entertaining, and I want to come back for more. So if you do, please make sure to follow, subscribe, like on all of the social media platforms for Sins and Suffers, where Mario is so graciously sending you all of this amazing content. And I look forward to hosting the rest of these LGBTQ takeover episodes of Sins and Suffers.
I hope you guys enjoyed our conversation. Our conversation was educational, magical, and I mean, Alexa's just a bad bitch. I mean, you already know by watching. As you can see, she's going to be taking over for a little bit during Pride Month, maybe a little longer, and she'll just be helping us out and really kind of diving into an aspect of our community that I honestly don't think I can quite dive into it as well. Your own. And that's true for every culture. That's true for everything. And don't get me wrong. I want to be kumbaya and I want to love on everybody and I want to be supportive and I want to see the world on my walls. I want to see the entire world on my walls. But we all know what it's like to be around family or those who have like minds. And family, the beauty of that is family is not what you're born into. It's what you make it. And I am excited to have Alexa as a part of the Sins and Suffers family and on a very high podium on that, for that matter. I hope you guys enjoy these episodes. Please, as she said, like, follow, subscribe. I would love to hear comments of this series that she's going to be taking over for the next little while. And I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts. Please make sure you guys are paying attention to my social media, my Instagram. I am going to be announcing that I am traveling, doing some recording, doing some things while she is taking over, and I will be an eager listener. Wait a minute. Can I mess with my own metrics if I listen to it? Okay, whatever. I'm going on a tangent. But I deeply thank you guys, and I hope you enjoy the next round of Sends and Suffers podcast. And as always, if you're not suffering, are you really even sending at all?
Audio.